discussion session with the leading professionals from food industry and the academia. The theme for today's panel discussion is Enriching Food Products with Micronutrients, sponsored by Hexagon Nutrition. This is Samina Rahim, Events Lead from FIRST. For a short intro, FIRST is a market research and a consultancy firm operating in India for over a decade, covering food and beverage ingredients, additives, and related fine chemicals. FIRST works to bridge the gap between the producers and end users by conducting research studies, live webinars, tabletop exhibits, open innovation days, and academic outreach programs. Our sponsor, Hexagon Nutrition, is a differentiated and a research-oriented, pure-play nutrition company offering clinical products, micronutrient premixes, and therapeutic products. The company sells its products across India and has exported to around 70 countries to meet the demand for holistic nutrition through micronutrient premixes, fortified rice kernels, clinical nutrition, and therapeutic nutrition. Pentoshore, being their flagship category, is a leading name in the health, wellness, and clinical nutrition space and offers a complete source of nutrition for all age groups. They also have Pedia Gold for kids and Obesigo for weight management as well. Hexagon Nutrition also focuses on therapeutic range with our products such as RUSF, RUTF, F75, and F100 for malnutrition children. They also cater to fortify the customized segment for breakfast cereals, bakery, and beverages. So folks, I'm sure this is going to be a very interesting session. Hence, without any further delay, I take pleasure in introducing our panelist for today's session. Our first panelist is Mr. Ritesh Mathur. Ritesh Mathur is founder of F2F Solutions and has 22 plus years of experience in R&D, new product development, setting of R&D centers, food safety, regulations, sensory, consumer panels, product launches, and quality assurance in the food industry. Having patents and publications on his name, he has worked at senior level and leading the R&D for reputed companies like McDonald's, Danone, General Mills, Givaudan, Godfrey Phillips, and Rapticos Brett. Ritesh is an alumni of UDCT Mumbai and NMIMS and secretary for AFST Mumbai chapter. Welcome on board, sir. Our second panelist is hello, sir. Our second panelist is Dr. Shonima Venugopal. Dr. Shonima is an assistant professor CES, Department of Foods and Nutrition, Faculty of Family and Community Sciences, the Maharaja Sayaji Rao University of Baroda. She has done a PhD in Foods and Nutrition 2010, UGC NET 2012, and has an experience in teaching with 20 plus years, research is 8 plus years. Dr. Shonima has got her research papers published in various national and international peer-reviewed journals and chapters in books. Papers presented in national and international conferences are about 43. Her projects completed are 2, ongoing projects is 1, and an amazing number of academic recognition and awards, which stands at 11. Let me now move on to introduce our third panelist. Our third panelist is Ms. Mani Mishra. Ms. Mani Mishra is currently working in Department of Scientific, Regulatory Affairs and Nutrition at Mother Dairy, Fruit and Vegetable Private Limited, Delhi. She has served at Mother Dairy since 2015 and her current roles broadly include regulatory compliance comprising of fssci, BIS and nutrition portfolio at Mother Dairy, evidence-based clinical and community research. She has completed her academic qualification from IT College Lucknow and from Banaras Hindu University. Her major focus areas of work are food science, clinical nutrition, and food and nutrition labeling, food fortification, and other regulatory affairs. Prior to the engagement with Mother Dairy, she has also served as an assistant professor. So I also welcome Ms. Mani on board. Then our moderator for today's Dr. Jagdish Pai, Executive Director, PFNDAI. The first speaker for the day is Ms. Sukhada Bhatt Paralkar, Assistant General Manager, Regulatory and Nutrition Affairs, Hexagon Nutrition Limited, a registered dietitian with over 15 years of experience. MS Diabetes Care Management UK, CDE UK India, PGT Dietetics, FoodMap Certified Australia, Novo Nordisk Overall Performer of the Year. So that was the introduction of a panelist. I would just like to make a small announcement. All the participants will be on mute throughout the webinar to prevent any background noise. But however, during the presentation, you can post your questions in the chat window, and we will try to address these questions to all our panelists present today. However, a recorded version for the session will be shared with the participants who will fill the exit survey form, which will be shown through on the mail. I extend a hearty welcome to all our panelists and wish them all the best for the session. I now call upon Ms. Sukhada to take over. Welcome, Ms. Sukhada, on board.
Thank you, Ms. Samina, for your kind words. Good evening, everyone, and we look forward to an exciting panel today. I hope I'm able to do justice for setting the context for such an eminent panel discussion that is to follow. So, dear learned audience, fortification is a term not new to the field of nutrition. We understand that fortification means addition of vitamins and minerals to increase the nutrition value of the food that we eat. The nutrients may or may not be, possibly be originally present in the food before processing, but it is, proven to be a simple, one of the most cost-effective and economic ways of improving the nutrition profile of the foods that we eat. Now, fortification, as you know, has the primary goal of eradicating the micronutrient deficiencies to say, for example, we look at fortifying salt with iodine. Now, simply by doing this simple step, we looked at preventing irreversible brain damage in young children. We fortified flour with iron and folic acid. A simple addition of two nutrients protected children and pregnant mothers, lactating mothers from iron deficiency anemia, a major cause of maternal death and neural tube defects seen in young children. And this also works very closely with the Sustainable Developmental Goals that we have set for 2045. Now, imagine a solution that is so economic, affordable, effective, that it can eradicate all the malnutrition woes that there are. Sounds exciting, isn't it? Is it difficult? Impossible? Maybe not. Let me take you through some of the success stories that are associated with the journey of fortification. It's not something new, but it's a science that is evolving, and we are here today to discuss, scientific evidence behind fortification. Evidence confirms that food fortification programs across the globe, whether lower or middle income countries, has improved the range of micronutrient intake across populations, across physiological groups. Large scale food fortification has been used substantially by governments to improve iron, folic acid, vitamin A deficiencies in various regions. One of the most striking story, you have a salt in every household, every table has salt, on every dining table would have salt on it. And iodization of the salt was one of the most striking stories. Around the world, more than 2 billion people, nearly 1 out of 4, suffer from hidden hunger. We are facing what we call as double burden. People do not, we might be heavier than our parents at the same age. So the weight that you see in the current younger children or young population is much more than the parents at the same age. But these children still do not have enough micronutrients. They suffer from micronutrient deficiency. So whether you're looking at the rural population or you're looking at the urban population, micronutrient deficiencies are very common. Countries have long been fighting these nutrition challenges through food fortification. So can we come up with then a magic potion to solve this grave issue? Well, perhaps not a magic potion, but what we can do is fortify or enrich the meal that is there on your plate with the essential micronutrients to take care of the micronutrient deficiencies. One of the ways which micronutrients are introduced to the food is to include staple foods like your salt, sugar, your milk, rice, flour, oil, etc. And it has proven to be very cost effective to enhance the nutrition on a wide scale. Like I said, Iodization of salt was one of the most striking success stories, and many governments around the world have followed suit and mandated that enrichment of salt, which is a very inexpensive commodity, should be made compulsory. And it has actually, wiped off the goiter belts across many regions which were otherwise endemic for goiter. To address anemia and other vitamin E deficiency and micronutrient deficiencies in India, for example, Government of India has approved a centrally sponsored project for fortification of rice. And there are more than 15 states which are adopting it, and through public distribution system, we will be, looking at fortified rice reaching each and every household. We're looking at fortified rice reaching younger children through the ICDS and the midday meal, or the Pradhan Mantri Poshan Shakti Nirman, Yojana. So we're looking at fortified rice reaching each and every household in a phase-wise manner by 2024. Now, while governments play a very key role in legislating fortification, we at Hexagon Nutrition Limited, health food companies and other institutes actually implement these standards and dramatically improve the nutritional value of their food. We strive to work on the research and development to improve fortification goals across various staple products and work closely with governments across the globe. We run one state-of-the-art, center of excellence at NIFTM campus in New Delhi for capacity building in the field of food fortification, rice fortification particularly, and also a pilot plan to help carry out further research and development. Simply put, there is a lot of scope with food fortification. At a grassroots level, it could be a grand success to take care of all the micronutrient issues. It's not a very fancy solution. It's very affordable. It can reach every household, and it will not be limited to particular sections of the society. It does not impact the food that you eat. It does not impact the preparation methods, lifestyle, or flavor. And therefore, it's very easy to kind of implement as well. Let's look at some of the inspiring stories. In 1920s, US looked at iodization of salt. Like I said, they eradicated more than 70% of the US household received iodized salt, and they could take care of the goiter belt. In a little later, in 1970s, Guatemala government, they took simple ingredient, sugar that is present in the kitchen, and they fortified that with vitamin A. Now, vitamin A, as we know, is responsible for childhood blindness. It is responsible for morbidity and mortality associated in children with respect to infection. So simply by fortifying sugar with vitamin A, in the first year itself, Guatemala was able to bring down the deficiency of vitamin A from 22% to 5%. And this success story was followed by many other nations in the Central American belt. In India, we started fortification of milk, and billions of children who are deficient in vitamin E and D could actually gain access to this vitamin. In spite of having so much sun in our country, many of us sitting in our offices, even in urban populations who have good nutrition, could be vitamin D deficient. So should we then look at eating fortified milk or consuming fortified foods? Possibly yes. So when we look at these strategies, we have a very interesting panel here planned for you. We have people from the academia, research institutes, and the industry who are going to share the experiences where the fortification is really an evidence-based science. It's going to clarify your doubts, and it's going to bring to you the success or the exact impact of fortification. I hope I've intrigued your thoughts and to the endless possibilities that fortification can bring. I would now like to invite our moderator, Dr. Jagdish Pai sir. Sir is a very well-known figure in the food technology and the industry, and he does not require an introduction, a very inspiring figure for all of us. But I'm still going to introduce sir in a few words so that our young audience knows about his work. Sir is an executive director of PFNDI, and he holds a PhD from the US in food technology. Sir also has many research awards to his, to his credit, right from India and across the globe. He was also a retired professor of food technology from UICT Mumbai, and he has been mentor to many doctoral students and master's students as well. His research experience in the field of dairy technology, protein and enzyme technology is immense. And we look forward to your moderation and the panel discussion today, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sukada. Let me first formally thank Hexagon as well as FIRST or GIRAC for inviting me and such a eminent panel for this discussion along with Sukada. So we have, as was emphasized by both Sukada and Shonima, we have experts from industry as well as academics. We have Ritesh Mathur from industry. He's the founder of F2F. We have Dr. Shonima Venugopal, an assistant professor from MS University, Baroda. And we have Ms. Mani Mishra from Mother Dairy. We have already heard Ms. Sukada Bhatte of Hexagon. So having laid such a nice foundation, I think I'll just stress upon some additional points so that we can then start with the questions to the panelists. Now, fssci facilitated the fortification of wheat flour, rice, salt, oil, and milk with various micronutrients. Now, fortification was done prior to that. Actually, in India, compulsory fortification was done for vanaspati long ago, because vanaspati was made out of vegetable oils by uh, hydrogenation, and during that process a lot of original vitamins would be lost, so they had to add vitamin A to that in order to replace whatever was lost. Now, salt fortification was started almost a couple of decades ago with iodization, and now we have also, under the scheme of fssci, iron added to salt fortification. Now, wheat flour fortification was done in US, as Sukada mentioned, many decades ago, and they wiped off the goiter in that country. So we also are deciding that it would be nice to have such fortification with especially B complex vitamins to the wheat flour. Now, rice fortification has been done elsewhere, similar one in Philippines, even I think in some of the African and South American countries. So we have also added to that oil and milk so that we can have 5 different staples which could be fortified in India if the manufacturers use the standards that were put down by fssci, and they can apply. They can use the fortification logo that is made available by fssci. So there is a lot of interest amongst the industry to do this micronutrient fortification initiated by fssci. Now, several studies have been shown amongst the Indians that, in spite of many attempts, there are still a lot of deficiencies, children as well as older people. So hopefully with this initiative, it will help reduce this problem to a great extent. So to talk to you all about their experiences, we have this panelists, and let me start with Mr. Ritesh. How are you, Ritesh?
Good, sir. Thank you so
I
much.
have a question for you. You have been involved in many new product developments. Now, how startups are coming up with innovative ideas, and do you think there is a need for enrichment of these products? Ritesh.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Hexagon. Thank you, Professor Pai. Thank you, Jirat, for giving me opportunity to speak on this. My knowledge is very limited to the product development. So as you mentioned, the startup, I would say like startup is a boom in today, and we see a lot of startups are coming in India, and they're talking something different. The one thing which I talk, since we're talking about fortification, I will talk about the fortification for the startup per se. And what we have realized that startups are usually like they can take some bold decisions, and they take some risk, and with the risk they come with innovative product, and that really helps the various things. If you talk about some startups like which focus on, say, on nut butters or protein bars or something else, and when we see whatever product they make today to like or they want to make it, they always trying to fortify the product. And when I say fortifying, I'm not limited to the fortifying only on the, say, on vitamin, on mineral, or those things. They could fortify with the, say, a probiotics or the prebiotics. This could be some herbal ingredients in that, could be Ayurvedic ingredients in that, could be some Asian grains. They could be talking of those things. But ultimately, when we look at all those things like a vitamin, mineral enrichment, prebiotic, we look all those gametes, they're talking about a good, decent product for their customers. So it can give a wholesome thing to their consumer, or the customer whom they are referring to. So this very, very critical happen. And when we work, we always talk about, okay, when you talk probiotic, we're talking about, okay, I'm talking of 1 billion cells or 2 billion cells, and how this happen to the gut, and going beyond gut and immunity, we can talking about, or we can talking about some herbal ingredients, and how these herbs can avoid some deficiency, or can have some extra mileage to them in terms of any of the, say, brain health or any of the immunity health, and all those things happens. So enrichment is the day, and start with the first one to to talk about those. Absolutely, sir.
Thank you very much, Ritesh. I'm hoping that more and more people will get enthused to add the micronutrients in their product so that we can get rid of this problem. Now the problem does exist. So let me ask a question to Dr. Shonima. Fortification of salt was successful model followed by many nations. Similarly, NIN has done some work on double fortification of sugar. Would it be a good idea to fortify sugar? Shonima.
Thank you for the question, sir. Sir, sugar, as we know, is a commodity that is widely consumed by a large number of people in both underdeveloped and developing countries, and it is also used in a wide variety of products. According to the guidelines for food fortification, sugar has been listed as one of the food vehicles best suited for mandatory or mass fortification, because it meets all the characteristics that are required of a food vehicle. And according to data, the consumption of sugar globally has been increasing at around 1.4% per annum. And the major contributor of this increase in global sugar consumption is coming from Asia. And we already know that India is one of the largest producers as well as consumers of sugar. So in that sense, enriching sugar with micronutrients seems to be a promising approach in a country like ours, where micronutrient deficiency is prevalent. And like was mentioned by Ms. Sampada, she did tell us about how sugar has been fortified with nutrients like vitamin A, and the study that you mentioned, NIN, how they have tried fortifying it with iodine and iron. So that kind of work has been done, and she did mention Ms. Sukhata did mention about the success story from Guatemala, where they could bring down the prevalence and actually of vitamin A deficiency and increase the serum levels of retinol in a span of around 6 to 12 months with the fortification of sugar with vitamin A. So in that sense, see, when we talk about sugars, we do say that a diet that is high in sugars, especially refined sugars, is not considered good for human health. But if not consumed excessively, sugar could serve as a good vehicle for fortification, because it's anyway an important part of a human diet and makes the food palatable and all. So, however, having said that, what is very important is to have an effective monitoring and evaluation system that would track the intake of the micronutrients in the population, and in case, if need be, revise and adjust the concentration of the fortificants that are used. So I believe we can go ahead, we can do it. Sugar fortification is possible and is a good, possibly good approach.
Thank you, Dr. Shonima. Maybe FSSAI will allow sugar as one of the vehicles in addition to the earlier 5 that they have already uh, allowed for fortification. Thank you. My next question is to Ms. Mani. Milk fortification was started in 2017 across 15 states in India. Could you throw some light on the journey and successful stories? How we have been successful in reaching all households in India? Mani.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir, for the question. Am I audible to everyone?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So thank you, Hexagon, for having me here. Just to answer the question regarding the journey and successful stories behind fortification, I am from Mother Dairy, so I will talk later about Mother Dairy. But yes, firstly, yes, it is a very much, this initiative is for sustainable ecosystem towards eat right concept, which has been promoted by FSSAI, first of all. And over the years, FSSAI has come up with various kind of initiatives like this, which helps for the sustainable ecosystem towards such kind of initiatives. If I come across the successful stories in India, there are many stories like, for example, the Haryana cooperative, the West Assam Milk Producer Cooperative Union, which is also known as Purbi Dairy, then Quality Dairy, we have the Jharkhand State Cooperative, the KMF, the Karnataka Milk Federation, Creamline Dairy, Nestle India. They all have been fortifying their milk with vitamin A and D soon after operationalization of food fortification, which is into milk fortification as well. Now coming up to Mother Dairy initiative, many of our audience might not be knowing, and I will be throwing out, certain facts and figures which you will be amazed and you will understand what kind of beautiful journey it has come across within few decades, I would say. Mother Dairy was being the pioneer in milk fortification, and the journey did not started in 2017. It started way back in 1980s. Why, you will be very surprised to ask me why 1980s. At the time, 1980s, night blindness was very much prevalent, and there was a kind of various initiative how to eradicate this night blindness. Mother Dairy as an initiative took this milk fortification with their bulk vended milk. So when I say bulk vended milk, when some of you have come to Mother Dairy booth in Delhi, you will find there is a dispensing vending machine here in Delhi Mother Dairy booths, wherein you put a token as in a case of much similar to a coin, and the milk was being dispensed. In 1980s, it was being fortified, the milk was being fortified with vitamin A at 2000 IU. Thereby taking ahead, in 1984, Ministry of Food and Civil Supplies, Government of India, released a notification for cooperative dairies to take this initiative forward and fortify the milk, and thereby they will get the reimbursement. However, Mother Dairy, it was still 3 years only to get the reimbursement. However, Mother Dairy continued to fortify the bulk vended milk from to 2000 IU of vitamin A till the time the operationalization of food fortification happened. So I'm sure this story might not be aware with everyone, but yes, currently Mother Dairy fortifies approximately 1.6 to 1.7 million liters of fortified milk per day. It has also been accredited as early adopters by FSSAI, and we are very proud to take this initiative ahead and contribute to delivering fortified milk with vitamin A and D to consumers to contribute in nation's drive against micronutrient deficiency. Because what we should know is when milk is being processed, the cream separation happens. Majority of fat soluble vitamins have been in the fat profile of the milk. It is a kind of good manufacturing practice, I would say, from an industry point of view. If certain things have been devoid of, it's the responsibility of the industry to give them back. And once the operationalization of milk fortification in October 2017 happened, Mother Dairy was able to fortify across all its milk variant, which were allowed by fssci, within 10 days without increasing a paisa. And it was like, it's just, I would reiterate again, it's the method to deliver the nutrients which are being devoid in the milk during the course of standardization, pasteurization, and processing of milk. So yes, this has come across to a very beautiful journey. And I would, from this platform, I would say that organized sectors should come up more often in a better way to fortify their milk, whatever their produce is, so that India still has only 20% of the organized sector in milk. They can do that and serve the nation in a better way. Additionally, not just the milk fortification, Mother Dairy is being often recognized as a company wherein milk and milk products are there. We have one more group, that is Dhara, wherein we fortify the edible oils since 2011 with vitamin A and D. So yes, to answer your question, sir, it has been a very good and beautiful journey ahead, and we'll continue to serve the nation on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mani. It's a very nice effort and a very successful one, and it will encourage the others to follow also, because only 20% you said is organized. So a large unorganized sector is remaining. Some procedure can be evolved in order for them also to fortify and give the benefit to larger number of people. Thank you, Mani. Now coming back to Ritesh.
Yes, sir.
Post-pandemic, consumers have become very conscious about their health and well-being. Consumers are opting for food enriched with micronutrients in order to at least meet their daily requirement. In your practice, what are the innovative products you have seen post-pandemic? What are the applications that are currently trending in consumers' eyes? Ritesh.
Wow, that's very broad. I would like to answer whatever I I could.
Yeah. No problem. We are just discussing. So there are no such things as 100% right answer. So please go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I'm just saying my perception. So this is what we see from my eyes. There could be people see from different eyes. So I'm saying what I see from my eyes. So what we have realized, sir, so we have realized like after post-pandemic, there was increasing awareness of the food or whatever thing we eat. It could be a vada pav, kulche, chole, whatever people eat in the north. So there's a surely there's an awareness of the people what they're consuming it. Earlier there was more casual approach, but now people are really serious what they eat. I've seen myself in the people, not even in startups or their consumers, but whenever they go to buy their product from a D-Mart or a Big Bazaar or anything or any mom and pop shop, they do start seeing the label. It's fortified. It contains vitamins. It contains something. It's good for me. So people, the awareness about the food is really been increased. And thanks to pandemic, people talk about the zinc and vitamin C and all other things. So the general awareness about the nutrition, about the fortification has been somehow increased to next level. That one thing we have really observed. What we really observed initially, like for the 2020 to 21, 22, we have seen some increase in the product for the immunity-based product. But surely now this is a declining mode. People think now we've overcome this COVID phase. So the immunity is still we need, but there's no immunity-based product which are coming more and more now. One more observation, what we have realized that people are going for the clean label product. So earlier there was the clean label product was only like people like you and me were talking about industry, but now the consumer talking about the clean label product. People talking about something like a no sugar, which I agree is fine, by the way, like a no sugar or low sugar product. People talking about the label or the sugar in the label and saying, okay, how much is the reducing sugar, or what is the total sugar, the actual sugar. People are referring to those things. One more thing happened after the pandemic, and thanks to all this Patanjali and Himalaya and all those companies, and the knowledge about the Ayurveda is actually coming in the mainstream. So I've seen product where people are all adding this Ayurvedic herbs, or similar like the Asian herbs in their product. It could be like ashwagandha or shalaki or the turmeric, which is widely consumed. We are seeing all these herbs are actually adding in our product. So whatever, it's not saying very specific product. I'm not talking about, okay, we are getting some eureka product, but whatever we eat in a day, we are adding those things in that. So it could be a biscuit, it could be a butter, it could be a protein bar, it could be anything, everything what we eat. We're talking about these herbs or the function ingredients. One more thing about really observe, like somehow the millets, and be it jawar, bajra, ragi, those are coming in picture. People are talking about these millets, and this is widely widespread. So right from protein powder to making a chilla at home or making a milkshake or juices, we are seeing that people talking about millets or Asian grains. Suddenly there's people are talking about those things. Earlier it was not happening, but now with the millennials, even millets are happening now. So okay, I'm having a ragi cookie, something like that. So those are happening. And I see Instagram post by the consumer that they're having something like a millet based or a ragi cookie at home. Other thing we focus, like this is what the COVID taught us, perhaps. The need on the protein, the dietary fibers are prevalent now. So people are looking at the protein product, people talking about the protein. And I'm not referring only to the guys who go to the gym, or the guys they need more protein, they're doing a bodybuilding, all those things. No, the general awareness, I'm going for a walk, I'm going to yoga, I'm doing all those things, but it's my protein, I need my more protein. And I'm not referring to any artificial adding protein externally to the product. It could be eating more chole, eating could be more rajma, it could be more pulses. So even those are happening now. So people are changing their pattern and talking about those things. One important thing, and very important for today's discussion, I just want to ensure we focus on this. The people are talking about fortifications. Like I've seen people and they talk about, oh, I want to fortify the product. And then we mention, okay, what are the aim, what are the things they're looking at? And the normal people, like, so I'm seeing the startups who doesn't know anything about the food science or the product, but they talk about, okay, I want to add vitamins, I want to add minerals in the product. Let's focus on the zinc, let's focus on the iron, let's focus on vitamin B12, vitamin D, folic acid, whatever we're discussing about. And Sukta rightly pointed out many of these fortifications. So even in the normal course of product, people want to add this product in their product. So we are there. The one classical example could be like a plant-based milk, which there is no inherently calcium or vitamin D or say this in product, which my friend is adding in the mother dairy. So the people want to add these vitamins back and minerals back to their plant-based milk. No, so even this is happening. So we've seen this, and this is actually reflect to the fssci, because they're getting a regulations on Ayurvedic ahar, on vegan food, and all those things are coming up, which actually substantiate that people are aware of these things. So this is going to interesting journey, and we'll see more and more products in maybe next 5 years at least. The startup is good, the awareness is increasing. We're going one notch towards the developed countries. So there's much awareness happening these days. So I'm sure this is gonna have very good days for our people like you and me. So yeah, thank you, sir.
Ritesh, let me ask you uh, in return.
Sure.
You said two things.
Yeah,
Awareness is increasing
sure.
amongst everyone, all stakeholders, especially the consumers. And
Correct.
secondly, manufacturers are adding
Right.
because consumers are asking for it.
Correct.
Now, first question was, awareness is increasing because of what? Is it because something is coming in the media, or is it because government initiative? Is it because industry is making it so obvious that they're adding some of the immunity uh, uh, chemicals or constituents in the food? So what is it that is creating the awareness? And the second question, when the manufacturers are adding these things, of course, if they call upon consultants like you would give science-based approach, how to add, how much to add, whether it will be bioavailable when they consume this product, or are they just adding something after reading in the papers that this might be a good thing to add, or this particular herb might be useful for something else? What is the, because it can have a beneficial as well as not so useful effect. So these two questions, just
Absolutely, sir.
throw some light on that.
Absolutely, it's a very, very bang on, sir. I'm not going to say my perception here. I don't have very much data, but whatever I see the people and we meet the people, and we happen to meet a lot of people because of our role. So first thing about mention about consumer, the total awareness is increasing. And I can mention these two ways. Because of the COVID, people have seen many things in their life. I don't want to talk about those sad days, but people have seen in their life what are going to happen. And then they also realize small, small things can really help in their life. So they've realized, okay, if I take a vitamin C dose every day, or if I keep my, people talking about RDA these days. So if I understand how much I need to take, my daily values, so I'm going to be like fit. So people are getting more aware. Thanks to the social media, thanks to the internet, people are seeing this and understanding these. Earlier only like only the food scientists or all the students or the people in this domain were only checking about the ingredients or the nutrition. But now everybody is seeing these ingredients. So these social media, and I've seen this whenever I go for a consumer panel, and people just behave like they understand these things, like they understand the vitamin A deficiency, they understand like how vitamin D is important for my say my bones and my like my health. And so in general the total awareness has been increasing. So I would say like maybe COVID taught them, the social media has taught them about these. The millennials are very active these days. The awareness has been increased. Like, so when we were a student, the only thing was to go to understand from you and go to the library and read the books. So I think that stage has been like going ahead. People are just even checking in the Google. So I remember when I talk to the people, immediately when we're talking something new word, they immediately Google it out. कि ये क्या है? Now, what is emulsifier? What is this 3330 is talking about? What citric acid is, or what ascorbic acid is? So they immediately Google it out. So this awareness has been increasing. So there's a one reason happening it. Now this actually put a pressure to us how we ensure there's a nutrition is happening giving to the customer, which you rightly mentioned, how this we can substantiate. So we do our justification, and thanks to FSSI guidelines, which happen to mention us to, we can go up to the 1 RDA. We define what is my daily values, would be what my particular my, like when I take any product, what is like I'm consuming per day, what is like uh, my serve size is. So it's like 30 grams, it's like a 200 ml. So what I'm consuming. So basis that we design the entire fortification, especially the micronutrients we design basis that. And whatever that, unfortunately the FSI given entire guidelines to us, what salt to be used, what vitamins to be used, what salt are for the vitamins and minerals which can be used in our product, and what a biology for this product could be. Even if we even go for the micronutrients, we can even check the amino acid profile of what product we are adding in a product. And of course, whenever I have a concern on the salts, I always go back to my Hexagon team and tell them, boss, this is the salt we are looking at, this is the product fortification is requirement. So for example, it's a powder based product, it's like like energy shot, it's like a fat based matrix. So different salt will be used for different things, so that is more bioavailable. So we do debate and discuss internally what can go, and then go to the expert like the Hexagon and talk to them. Okay, this is the product, this is the matrix, this is the format, this is my serve size. Let's what we can make it more bioavailable. So we always take those holistic approach, and then we add fortification to the product. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Ritesh.
Thank you.
Probably extending to that same thought, I will ask Dr. Shonima if she has any thoughts on. See, Ritesh mentioned that there is a lot of interest in plant-based things as well as millets. Now we know that millets do have a lot of phytates, or some of the other substances which can make the bioavailability of certain micronutrients a little or much less. Now in that case, uh, it would be better to ensure that what you are adding, because there is a lot of effort and cost to fortification. If you add that, if it doesn't reach the consumers properly, then your efforts are going to be wasted. uh, can something be, or there is a lot of work that has been done in universities. So do you have any kind of a interaction with either industry as well as with the government, fssci, etc., in that issue?
No, sir. As right now, as of now, I don't have a lot of idea about the industry aspect and how they are trying to. But like you said, the effort that is being put into fortification. So we need to come up with ways, maybe through research, and we can collaborate with industry. The university industry collaboration can take place to find out how the bioavailability of nutrients through millets and through other fortified products can be increased. So we need to work on that. A lot of research can be undertaken in that area.
Thank you. Now, along the same line, I think the next question is to you. Would it be a good idea to have FSSAI endorsed fortification for other foods other than rice, wheat flour, salt, milk, and oil? Dr. Shonima.
Sir, already there are many packaged food companies which are selling products like biscuits and noodles which are enriched with vitamins and minerals. So having FSSAI endorsed fortification would ensure that they start complying with the norms. And it could also ensure that there'll be a check on the content of critical nutrients like salt, sugar, fat, especially trans fat. Now, since we've been talking about a shift towards consumption of processed and high fat, salt, sugar foods. So it would be a good idea to bring them under the purview of the FSSAI regulations.
There has been some thought regarding, the HFSS food, how they're labeling, or there are certain ranking or some other means of telling the consumers whether it is a high fat, high sugar, or high salt product. But it is getting delayed, but it is definitely coming soon. There are many different ways in which like traffic light symbols, etc., that might come. So definitely there are a lot of things planned by FSSAI which will be coming in future. Let me go to Mani. Now, we Indians boil milk before consuming in any form. How much vitamin A and D are lost in boiling? Should there be overages for this as well as loss in transit and storage? Mani.
Okay. Yes, sir. So, if we consider the milk, yes, that's absolutely right that we Indians have a tendency to boil milk. Even if you see the pasteurized milk, which has been there available in packaged poly pack. So there also it has been pasteurized, but we Indians have a habit to again re-boil that milk before consumption. By analytical, it has been observed that 10 to 15%, and it has already been also endorsed by FSSAI as well, that 10 to 15% loss of micronutrient happens during the boiling of milk. So understanding the micronutrient availability and its bioavailability relative to storage and processing conditions, various formulations have been developed to determine appropriate overages, so that to ensure products which should meet the label claims throughout the end of the shelf life, which is a very important factor wherein the consumers are considered. Say for example, if I mention say 120 IU per 100 ml, then ideally it should deliver the consumers by the end of the shelf life, if I talk about milk as in here. The same goes with the other products and commodities as well. And yes, it is absolutely right, vitamin degradation takes place during the course of storage, processing, even from preparation perspective also, for the finished food, and also between the interaction from other components of the food. Because of these stability issues, appropriate overages are being read by the industries on a periodic basis, which must be incorporated during the developmental phase of any food or any of the food product. One has to take due consideration on few parameters while adding the overages. One can be the endogenous levels of vitamins, if I say, or the micronutrients. I'm taking just an example of milk here. Milk itself has vitamin A and it's devoid of vitamin D. So once I'm fortifying the milk here, I need to take due consideration of which season milk I am procuring, what, because it is a commodity, and it is a commodity which has too much of variation in perspective of nutrients, wherein nutrients considered as fat, SNF, or say vitamins and the other micronutrients. So one has to take care of the endogenous levels of vitamins as well. Vitamins which are to be included or to be fortified, how their stability varies. For example, if I say milk is being fortified with vitamin A and D as well, so both of the stability will not be same for both of the nutrients, say vitamin A and vitamin E. The depletion might be more towards vitamin A and not to as such in case of vitamin D. So, and again, thanks to suppliers, premix suppliers like Hexagon, who have been taking due diligence while providing us the basic premixes for the fortification and along with the overages. When I talk about the milk fortification, around 8 to 10% of the overages we consider with respect to polypack milk. However, when it is the UHT treated milk, or say the ultra high temperature milk, then the overages differs. So just to answer your question, yes, the transit happens during storage, during other shelf life parameters, and the interaction between the foods, and due overages shall be taken consideration. Milk should not be reheated, or any food should not be reheated which are being fortified. So each time the milk has been boiled, 10 to 15% losses happens. So one is pasteurization, then the industry do, then again this. So that consideration we always take. However, reheating of milk might have some cause of concern while doing this as a recurrent problem.
Mani, it was a very nicely explained answer. Now, to that, let me add two more riders. One is reheating is bad. However, we Indians love to drink hot milk. So this is a problem. Whenever we buy milk in the morning, first of all, we try to boil it, and then we keep it to cool it either outside or in the fridge. So it is cold. Again, you take it out and it is cold milk, so you want to boil. Of course, there are now microwave ovens available, so the heat damage may be less in microwave compared to boiling of the milk. But these things, because of our love for hot milk, it might be a problem. So we may have to probably create awareness amongst the consumers about this problem, that every time you try to reheat or boil, there will be 10 to 15% losses. Now let me ask you a side question. You have how many different types of milk? Even buffalo milk and cow's milk, there might be several different types. You have whole milk and then standardized milk, or rather toned milk of different type. I think low-fat milk or skim milk is there. Now, all these are allowed to be fortified, or if so, the same fortification amount is okay. Some fat, I mean, some milks, whole milk will have more fat. So how do you, please go ahead.
Okay, so just to answer your question, yes, Mother Dairy has various variants of milk. As in, if you see the standards of milk as per FSSCI, we have the mixed milk, which has been categorized into various segments, like the full cream milk with 6% minimum fat. Then you have standardized milk, which is 4.5% fat, toned 3% milk fat, double toned, which is also known as reduced low fat or reduced milk fat, that is on 1.5, and then skimmed milk, which is not more than 0.5% fat, milk fat. All of these are, since operationalization happened in 2017, there were only 3 or 4 variants which were allowed to be fortified: toned, standardized, double toned, and skimmed. However, with subsequent operationalization and gazette regulation by fssci, now each milk can be fortified. Apart from this, species identified milk like cow milk can also be fortified. We at Mother Dairy fortify currently standardized, double toned, toned, skimmed milk. Cow milk we do not fortify, sir, because of the reason that there is a tendency to, from the consumer's perspective, and this is based on the research which we did internally, that cow milk is not very much welcomed by the consumers to be fortified. However, we are creating an awareness and subsequently going ahead with the fortification of cow milk as well. Now, answering to your question, yes, the milk fat profile is very much different, and should it be fortified at the same levels or not? Sir, to answer this question in a better way, like fssci has given us a range between, if I say vitamin A, that is 900 to 1500 IU. Currently, we do the average and we put it the average values, that is 120 IUs per 100 ml. With vitamin D, it is 200 to 300 IU per 100 ml. So now currently we are doing at 25 IU per 100 ml. So yes, it is up to the FBOs that they can fortify at a higher extent. However, there are subsequent horizontal regulations also wherein we have to meet the label compliances, and thereby we need to study it, and we monitor it on an average midway average value of 120 IU and 25 IU across. Coming to full cream milk, yes, it is, since it is having full fat, it can be considered at 900 IU. That's perfectly all right, because it itself has 1675 IUs in few of the regions, and few of the, across the season we have studied that at few times it happens that we get the milk which has 1675 IU per liter of milk. So yes, full cream milk can be on the lower end, that is 900. Since we have got the range from 900 to 1500, we cannot go beyond these ranges. That is a regulatory challenge with us.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mani. Very nicely answered. Now coming back to Ritesh. Yes. Fortified oils with vitamin A will need to be protected from sunlight, as it can cause degradation. Any solution besides colored packs and antioxidants?
Yeah, yes, sir, very well said. Whatever we have seen, like, yes, all the fortified oils, all oils, but what we use are fortified, and when we keep in a sunlight, it triggers the oxidation in the product. And most of the oil companies do use antioxidant, and the best way is to pack them opaque, which people are doing it as a color pack or an opaque pack. So that's the only solution to my understanding so far. What we can do, perhaps we can store them at a lower temperature, so ensure that the rate of degradation is actually slowed down. We can do at our home. I'm not sure how much is possible in the entire supply chain of the process, because oil is usually stored at the ambient. But if we store at the lower temperature, perhaps we can enhance the shelf life of the all the fortified vitamin A and D, or whatever we fortify in that. So yeah, opaque and lower temperature is the only solution which I could really think of at this point.
Oils can also be fortified with vitamin D. Is there any problem with vitamin D which is exposed to sunlight? Any degradation?
Yeah. So in general,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, right. Vitamin D doesn't happen like that, but vitamin A is more prone to the oxidation usually. But it's always advisable to keep at a color or amber color or dark color bottles, or or the other pack, so there is no direct sunlight coming in a picture with it, and keeping a lower temperature. So
consumers usually prefer transparent packs so that they can see the color of oil, or the viscosity or whatever. So there might be a little bit of a problem, or maybe you can have a little window for seeing the color and other properties of oil, and the rest of it can be opaque. Something like that may have to be.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Rite. Dr. Shonima,
Yes,
I
sir.
have a question for you. Would fortifying processed foods make it healthier? Because these foods are also high in sugar, fat, and salt, HFSS. And it is interesting to note that you are involved in a very interesting study of consumption of high fat, salt, sugar, HFSS foods by young adults. We would like to hear your findings on the same. Dr. Shonima.
Thank you, sir. So first I'll talk about the study. The study basically was on college-going students. So we had actually enrolled students who were staying in the hostel. So they were away from their homes. They were staying in the hostel. So their dietary habits would be different from the ones who were staying with their parents. So basically, we collected their anthropometric data, their dietary pattern, and we also looked into the consumption of high-fat, salt, sugar foods. So what we found was that around 1/3 of these subjects, they were overweight and obese. Some of them were even hypertensives and pre-hypertensives. And the percentage consumption of calories coming from fat was on the higher side, which was an important observation because an increased fat intake, as we all know, can predispose them to cardiovascular diseases early in life. Also, their sugar consumption was quite high. And because the study was focused on high fat, salt, sugar foods, there was a very high consumption of foods rich in sugar and salt and fat, like chips and samosas and noodles, salty biscuits. They were commonly consumed high fat, salt, sugar foods among these students. Like I said, they didn't have very good dietary practices. Like majority of them, were not consuming breakfast regularly. Their fruit, vegetable, and dairy intake was very poor, because of which they were not meeting their requirements for calcium, iron, vitamin C, etc. And about 25% of them, they also, they would cook food for themselves because they were in the hostel. So or some of them were staying in a PG accommodation, so they had the choice to cook meals by themselves. So and many of them were also in the habit of consuming food from outside quite frequently from the fast food restaurants. We also had a knowledge aspect. We also wanted to know what they know about healthy dietary practices. And we found that many of them were not aware about what a healthy diet actually should be like, what are the benefits of a healthy diet. Like around 1/3 or 1/3 of them felt that you can have as much sugar as, one can have as much sugar as one wants, or as much salt as one wants. There is no restriction on the amount of salt or sugar. And like I said, because some of them were in the habit of cooking food for themselves and they would shop, we also had this question about, we asked them whether they could recognize the Fortified Foods logo, and many of them could not recognize. And the only fortified product that they knew about that is there in the market was fortified milk. So basically, we felt that because of these kind of dietary practices, if awareness can be created among these students, in the college-going population, with programs or campaigns like the FSSAI's Eat Right movement, if we can create awareness among them regarding healthy dietary practices, that could go a long way and help them to make healthier lifestyle choices so that they can avoid chronic diseases in adulthood. Now, coming back to the first part of the question, would fortifying processed foods make them healthier? I don't think so. I would want to use the term healthier for processed foods, because in the end, they are still processed only. However, when we talk about, say, large-scale food fortification or market-driven fortification of processed foods, there is there needs to be regulation about the nutritional and health related claims, because any kind of misleading advertising of these processed foods which have these micronutrients added, but some of them have excessive amounts of salt, sugar, and fat, uh, that can kind of lead to an increase in the consumption of such foods. and giving them a health halo kind of effect, where the consumers might believe, they might overestimate the nutritional quality of these foods and their healthfulness, which could definitely pose a threat to public health. So even if we do fortify them, but like I mentioned even before, that there needs to be proper regulation, proper monitoring has to be done, so that even if these foods are fortified, their intake, the micronutrient intake or the nutrient intake should never exceed. So proper policies regarding that need to be there.
Thank you very much for a very nice answer. Again, let me ask you, you studied this particular survey amongst young people.
Yes, sir.
Now, even if you tell them that, your consumption of these snacks or, fried things should be reduced or, limited, do you think they are going to listen to us? Even if these things are bad for them, they are going to continue to eat it. So how can we create awareness that, all right, you need not stop eating it, but along with that, eat some good foods also. So how far can you succeed in that?
Like you said, sir, they're never going to stop eating these foods, right? So, which is why we said that it is not a very bad idea to fortify these foods also, because anyway, they are not going to stop their consumption. But like even Ritesh sir mentioned, there's a lot of awareness these days, though it's very difficult to convince the youngsters, but awareness even among them is increasing. A lot of information that is available on the media, and nowadays all celebrities are also very health conscious. So any sports person or celebrity they are looking up to, they look up to, everybody's health conscious, everybody's talking about eating healthy and staying fit. So we can make an attempt. We might not succeed 100%, but definitely we can make some change. If it's possible, we can try. So
I like your suggestion that, even if they are allowed to fortify these HFSS food products, they should not be allowed to advertise that they are healthful or they are fortified, etc. So let them fortify, but let them not try to glamorize these food products as healthy. So that's
yes,
a very good suggestion. Thank you very much. Let me go to Mani. Vitamin A and D may be added in fat-soluble forms so that they would remain in the butterfat, and if fat gets separated as cream, then milk will contain less of them. Of course, homogenization may prevent or delay it. Will it cause any problem of adequate dispersing in skim milk? Because there hardly less than 0.5% fat is there. Mani.
Yeah. Sir, this to straight away answer this question, no, it will not have any problem in dispersion, because earlier what happened was there is a lot of availability of only oil miscible premixes or fat soluble premixes were available. However, with advancement in technical premix suppliers like Hexagon, now water miscible premixes are also being available. And it doesn't need water miscible premixes do not need any kind of elaborated equipment, as you mentioned, homogenizer, which homogenizes the milk to prevent any uniform dispersion of the fortificants across the vehicle of the product. Now, if we address this in a better way, there is another technology which has been involved, is the process by which milk or the commodity is being fortified. And now, since you have asked me this question about the milk fortification, the process of milk fortification is, sir, very simple and can be easily achievable. What happens is, the only thing which we have to take consideration is when to add the fortification premix. Say, for example, the milk is being procured, and then the cream happens to be separated because of the variation is too much of fat and SNF. Say sometimes we get 6% fat, and if we want to make 3% toned milk, then we remove out the milk, fat from the milk, and then we process. So once the milk is being received, the addition of fortification shall happen in the balance time before the pasteurization. So in a flow diagram, if you see chilled milk, then it has been standardized, mixed, and the agitator happens, the bulk agitation happens, then straight away it goes to the pasteurization, and hence there won't be any problem of certain vitamins being dispersed well in case of skimmed milk, which has only 0.5% fat.
Let me ask a related question. Are milk powders allowed to be fortified? If not, why? Or are there plans to introduce fortification of this money?
Yes, sir. Sir, there has been an introduction of extension to it regarding milk powders to be fortified. However, it has been only suggested for I would say, the beneficiaries will not be all the population. It would be only to the like school milk programs or certain things. It has not been extended to the mass population. The reason is, sir, there are issues and there are certain considerations which have to be followed. While milk powders needs, they are actually used as a standardization process where they have to meet out the fat and SNF balance, the fat and SNF. So currently it is not around for the mass population, it is just for the beneficiaries, and it's still in draft, sir. So I think maybe in future we can come across things. However, it will be extended only for the school milk programs or certain things like that. Yes, sir.
Thank you, madam.
Because there, sir, what happens is there are far off places where the milk cannot go. The milk, which is perishable commodity, cannot go.
Correct,
So at
correct.
that point of time, we can cater the students there.
Thank you. Let me ask extension of this to Ritesh. Is there any interest amongst the industry to have milk powders to be fortified? Do you think anybody would be happy to fortify their milk powders?
Yeah. So, I mean, very open question. I would say the milk powder widely used in the industry as an ingredient. People use in their, if you look at very regular, people use in their tea, coffee premixes, people use in chocolates, people use in winning food or the baby food, people use in across categories, the milk powder is used. And this goes beyond the milk, like just for general audience, people doesn't see milk as a only milk, but like many will agree with me, like we have so many other applications where the milk is used directly or indirectly in any of the product formulations, right from like a nut butter, so the Nutella like a product, till it goes to like the weaning food or the baby food, the milk powder is being used. So it's very wisely to be used. The one thing is, when we add fortification, there could be an increase in cost. People are very conscious on that, but I'm leaving the cost aside for the sake of the discussion on the nutrition perspective. So one thing, like when people add something, we will gonna consider mainly the macronutrients and the minerals from the milk powder. So like for example, when we design any product, I'm using a milk powder in that product, so we do consider the micronutrients coming from the milk. So I might say, designing any product, I'm adding calcium in a product, so I always consider, okay, how much calcium I'm getting from my raw materials, say the SMP or WMP in this case, and how much I need to add externally in my product, right? So we usually don't consider those in our formulation. So we consider, okay, whatever the vitamins present in the milk powder would mainly get like destroyed during the spreading process at 170, 180 degrees centigrade during the spreading happens. So we won't be getting the actual things that, but once we adding it, need to be very clearly mentioned on the label for the consumer, for the B2B industry, very well to be used. So I can mention in two different ways, when I use in B2B and when I use in B2C. When I use in B2B, Yeah, it need to be clearly mentioned that I'm adding this much vitamins in the product. So whenever we use it, when we make a chocolate or we make a winning food, we are aware how much is coming from this and how much delta difference we need to add in the product. So this will be very, very well need to be defined. But as you can have regulations on that, and the regulations could become on that. And when a consumer is using it, I'm mostly using mainly for the tea and coffee or making some sweet at the home. Then again, that process will go again the heating and the multiple time heating, as you're mentioning about the 10% degradation happening every time. So those are your tricky one to happen. Then you also mentioned traffic light. We also need to consider those things here again. I'm adding is the consumer processing multiple times than where he was. We added 100, but the what consumer get only maybe 60 or maybe 50. So biology will again come in picture. So a lot of thought process, a lot of discussion need to happen on this. And I'm sure, sir, you are like an expert panel in fssci. Uh, this can come to you as a question.
Actually, my knowledge comes from all of you, the universities, the industry, Mani, Ritesh, Dr. Shonima are my sources of information. So that's why I'm asking you a lot of questions.
Yes,
Okay,
I feel very
let me
fortunate that
ask
you taught
you.
us. Let me take this privilege to thank you, sir, because you taught us. We think, no,
my,
I'm Professor Pi student, so we say that.
my pleasure. One of my best students. Okay, let me ask Ritesh a formal question.
Uh-huh.
There is a rise of vitamin A, folic acid, vitamin D, and iron deficiency post pandemic. How are we filling this gap through enrichment? How will it reach the rural population? Ritesh.
Sure. Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. This is a great question. I would say, sir, like as FSI was like fortifying all the staples, data, rice, oil, milk. I think the one way this can go to the masses, and this can go to rural population too, because it's going to everywhere. It is going it. Even a guy, even a customer who's in rural area will be consuming atta and rice and milk. So he'll be getting from there. So there's a one place he can get that. What we have seen also like trend apart from the staples, even the regular product which a rural population would be consuming it, and which is a very vast population. There could be a biscuit, could be noodles, a vermicelli, or some other snacking. People are adding those. Like we've seen all those smaller SKUs product like 5 rupees ka and 5 rupees, 10 rupees noodles or the snacking items things. People fortifying those products, especially on the vitamin D, the iron, the folic, and B12, which people adding in these products, which we have seen. One more thing which I'm talking more from my FST behalf, like the FSI initiative of the of the Eat Right thing, which we discussed like some time back. So Eat Right is very like came at the right time and talking about going beyond. This going for everybody, is urban to rural, and then the best part is supported by all the Netrofan folks, right from AFS to NSI to IDA. All those are supporting it, and apart from the focus on the low fat, consuming low fat, consuming low sugar or appropriate sugar, we also consuming, telling them to fortify their product. And then this comes not only as a fortifying food, because it's also consuming by adding more healthy food. So as ma'am was talking about her studies and talking about consuming more of the fruits and vegetables and other good healthy things, which can happen. So these people can also have these food, and of course the fortified food which can come from these price point. And just substantiate this, sir. This honestly, this morning I was reading one article which came on one of the WhatsApp group. It came and the article says say like in Karnataka, Belgaum, some Belgavi, some districts it was talking about, and they mentioned that the mother there, like she was herself and the rural mother, like she was taking herself the regular the ragi ka root. Bhakri and some other thing she was taking it, but for her son she was fortifying, she was giving the biscuit to her, a biscuit to him and her, like her kids. And then the one logic which came in discussion where she mentioned, because it's so fortified, although she may not able to read the vitamin A and she may not be knowing the deficiency of vitamin A, but she understand, okay, this contain vitamin. So she was giving that thing uh, to his kids, and that was awareness was happening in the rural area. So I won't say that, I mean, I would only say, okay, something has been starting in that direction, awareness again increasing, staples are helping it. Such small products, SKUs, which are mainly defined for the rural market, could be chips, but that's not talking about the glamorizing that. Uh, but maybe the biscuits and the noodles are fortified. So this could be a good step to get rural into the mainstream and getting a nutritious food to them. That I would say.
That is a very good observation. And I'm sure as awareness increases everywhere, rural is not going to be left far behind because of the digital transformation that we are seeing. Everybody in village has got smartphones. Some of them even have got laptops, etc. So they are keeping in touch. They are not so far behind as earlier. So this is a good sign. Yeah, thank you for the observation. Now let me go to Dr. Shonima. There has been a paradigm shift from traditional to commercial foods. Has this increased the predisposition for CVD and diabetes patient? Can food enrichment be used as a tool to fight metabolic disorder? Dr. Shonima.
Yes, sir. Like you mentioned, this shift that is taking place from a traditional sort of diet with high consumption of fresh products, vegetables, fruits, legumes, etc., protein-rich foods. We are now drifting away from that kind of a pattern and moving towards moving away from this healthy model to a pattern which is rich in processed food, foods high in fat, salt, and sugar. And definitely the intake of such foods does increase the risk of development of chronic conditions like diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular diseases. These new patterns, when they're affecting the nutritional status of different population groups, uh, a large percentage of the population is also not able to meet the recommendations for micronutrients because of this kind of a shift in their dietary patterns. Now, answering your question about whether fortifying foods or food enrichment can be used as a tool to for these metabolic disorders. Though we have isolated studies, and there could be more, like we have this DTEC study from Denmark, where they found that women who were prenatally exposed to vitamin D fortification, they tended to have a lower risk of subsequently developing gestational diabetes mellitus as compared to unexposed women. However, recent advances in nutrition science show that it's basically foods and dietary patterns instead of focusing on a single nutrient or nutrient focused metrics like they say, that could actually influence the non-communicable diseases. So we need to have nutrition policies prioritizing food-based dietary targets. Instead of focusing on a single nutrient, we are focusing on ensuring that there is intake of a balanced diet on a daily basis. So, yes, sir.
I think you have very nicely put. Somebody has said that we don't eat nutrients, we eat food. So
Yes.
your point is well taken that, we must make this particular realization before we try to fortify, before we try to talk about nutrients. Nutrients should not be forgotten, but you can't just talk about nutrients. You have to talk about food as well. Very well put. Thank you. Let me ask Mani. Indian homes cannot do without cooking at high temperature and frying our puris and bhajiyas. How do we ensure stability of nutrients that are fortified?
Okay. Yes, absolutely. As in the case of boiling of repetitive milk. Yes, this is absolutely true, sir. And we are fond of having bhajiyas and puris as well. However, if talking about the stability of nutrients, if say particularly if I say the product as in puri or bhajiyas, wherein the wheat flour is being considered, the stability is being studied across in various researches, and it has been studied at mother dairy also, because we are into breads as well. So the kind wherein the bread is being baked at such a high temperatures, the fortificants are very much stable. So I won't say that mother dairy is being fortifying its bread, because it's not allowed, it wasn't allowed at the time of launch. But yes, they have been enriching with other vitamins and minerals across, wherein we found that across all of the bread variants and the other products, it is very much stable. The nutrients were very much stable. If at all, if you see the researches as well, in addition, a significant amount which is being added to the food, say for example at the room temperature of 45 at the room temperature for 45 days, the breads or the other products which have been fortified are very much stable. So two more things to be considered while fortification is the overages, so that at very high temperatures they can sustain the nutrients availability after the product is being from put in from wheat flour to puris or bhajiyas in this case. Or say for example, what we at Mother Dairy studied, that after baking of the bread as well, the addition happens to be within the controlled purview which we fortified. Additionally, the sensory quality scores also were very much fine. So if I say, the two things which needs to be considered are overages, first of all. Yes. However, the fortification initiative or the technology, if I may say, is very much stable. They also give you a very detailed perspective across from various years. Now it's a well established technology wherein these factors like stability, storage have been across studied by various industries, various academicians, and it is a very stable technology. I hope I answered your question, sir.
Yeah, you have answered very nicely. But let me ask a rejoinder.
Yes, sir.
There are, even vitamin A and vitamin D, there are different compounds that could be used as fortificants. Is there any
Yes.
stability difference between the different compounds of vitamin A and D, or they are all
Uh,
about the same?
Sir, as far as if I talk about just the milk, if I say,
Yeah.
milk, yes, milk is like, if I say vitamin A, palmitate is being allowed and acetate also. Prior to milk fortification, we were being doing by vitamin A acetate, retinol acetate, which was very much stable in the food. After pasteurization also, and after the boiling, after pasteurization accompanied by boiling, it was very much stable in the milk. However, currently we are doing it with retinol palmitate. It is still the same. The results are quite same. And the other academicians also studied that the bioavailability factor is also not affected on this. So WHO also released a guideline way back, guidelines on food fortification, in which a detailed kind of fortificants compounds have been given. Say for example, where to use EDTA in wheat flour, or what parameters or compounds to be considered. For example, earlier when any enrichment, I'm not talking about here the food fortification, I'm also talking about the enrichment parameters wherein the fortification by regulator has not been allowed till date. So in that also, like if I take example of ferric pyrophosphate, now it happens to be very much stable rather than EDTA or certain other compounds. So it is well established, sir, and one can refer WHO guidelines on food fortification as well if any other enrichment can be, considered in their products.
Thank you. I think that would help understand about various compounds to be used, whether there are any differences. Thank you very much. Let me come back to Ritesh. Should we increase the level of vitamin allowance in fortified staples as prescribed by fssci? See, right now they are allowing certain levels. Should we increase that? Is there a justification for doing that? Ritesh.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Sir, I will say like these standards when they were developed, they were developed by all the scientific panels like who are like focused on fortification and nutrition, and this must be including the eminent the experts from this domain, which could be from the doctors from the AIMS, the ICMR, the NIN, NDRI, people like you, sir, like who understand this food. So also all these people who are really, sir, behind these for making these standards. And I'm sure when FSSI comes, is also the Ministry of Women and Child Development, and all these people must have been behind for making the standards, and they must have taken due diligence in making these standards. And we understand staples, if I was reading correctly, and many please correct me if I'm wrong, some 30 to 50% of the RDA, daily value, we can get from the staples when broadly we consume these things. So increasing that could be may not be wise unless it goes to sir and go to expert panel, and then they again study this and again go to NI, and they study till the time we should not go for 2.0. A lot of research, lot of work happened behind that. So ideally at this point of no, unless we do studies again.
Yeah, thank you, Ritesh. Let me extend this to Dr. Shonima. Now, she is a researcher. She knows a lot about the RDA, etc. Now, since the time that, FSSAI was thinking about fortifying and, they came up with standards, there have been changes in the RDA. Do you think still the same levels are okay, or do you want to make any kind, or do you prefer to suggest any kind of changes? Because RDAs have been amended. Yeah, please.
So now we are all talking about the EARs. We are all talking about the EARs, the estimated average requirements. So like Ritesh sir said, before even thinking about increasing or decreasing there, we need to, I guess, I believe, relook at the requirements again, and probably adjust the levels of fortification. But I'm sure the FSSAI, which is obviously in consultation with eminent experts, are actually thinking about this, because now the requirements have changed. So instead of now looking at the RDA, they're probably thinking about looking at the EAR and adjusting the levels, the fortification levels.
Thank you. Now let me ask you the next question, Dr. Shonima. Indians normally wash the rice several times before cooking. Is there any loss of vitamins due to washing?
So like in the case of the other fortified foods, definitely some amount of loss will be there when the rice is being washed. However, we have different, I'm sure the technology experts would have better knowledge about this, but of what I know, we have different methods of how rice is fortified. So when rice is fortified using the extrusion method or the rinse resistant coating method, then the losses that can happen through soaking and washing or cooking in excessive water, that is going to be minimal. Because from what I read, the micronutrients in the fortified kernels, which are produced with the extrusion technology, they become evenly distributed throughout the kernel, which is, and kind of the nutrients get sealed because of that. And that is why the loss that will take place from the extruded kernels will be very less as compared to if the rice had been fortified using techniques like dusting and all, or probably using coatings which are not rinse resistant. So and in India, as we know, I believe rice is fortified using the extrusion technology. So the loss, and not only because it's the best choice because of minimum losses due to soaking, washing, and cooking, but also because of the cost consideration. So the loss would be minimum that way.
Yeah, thank you. I think you have put that answer properly, because earlier they used to have the coating and other methods of fortification. And since they have started using the extruded technology, that problem will not anymore be, the loss of vitamin will not occur there. Yeah, thank you very much. Now let me ask Mani. It is an established fact that plant-based products have their own limitations. Protein bioavailability, low micronutrient due to high fiber content. How do you think we can fill this gap? Mani.
Yes, sir, you are absolutely right that plant-based products have their own limitations, and the availability is of great concern when it comes to plant-based diets and the products as well. So if I say the bioactive substances present in the food of plant origin, significantly, influence the bioavailability of various minerals and requirement for vitamins as well. So for that, I would rather put it in a different form. One should understand what are the deficiency in plant-based. First, we need to understand that thing. So if I say vitamin B12, it's one of the nutrients which cannot be catered through plant-based products. And identification is the first and foremost rule of supplying or overcoming that particular limitation. See, addressing the problem is fine, but how much addressing should be taken ahead happens to be understanding and identifying of the problem. One is vitamin B12. None of the products in plant-based products have vitamin B12, and the vitamin B12 deficiencies is a great concern in India nowadays. These can only be catered through dairy products or the animal origin products, I would say, wherein you get vitamin B12. So just to answer this question, that how to fill in these gaps, the one is foremost is enriching and fortification is the best method to go ahead filling out any kind of deficiency coming across from any kind of food product, or if we encompass the whole of the plant-based diets also. Now, if you see, the trend is shifting towards plant-based diet because of the certain reasons. However, we as a population should also understand the sustainability point of view, which just not encompass that I today decide to have a plant-based diet. It is more of towards a holistic approach, where to cut off the how to plan the diet in such a fashion that the ecosystem should not be disturbed. Yet, answering in a broader way that yes, fortification is one of the measures to fill in these gaps and to address plant-based gap analysis and subsequent things of that. Additionally, one more thing which happens is nutrient interaction also should be considered while plant-based. Why? Because plant-based diets also have anti-nutritional factors with them. So any nutrient which is being considered for fortification should also be researched and studies whether the addition of that particular nutrient should not interact with the profile of the plant-based product. So two more things from my end which needs to be considered. Yes, fortification is one of them to address it.
I think you have put the finger on the right spot, that there are certain anti-nutrients that may be present in some of the plant-based ingredients. For example, millets may have phytate and some of the other things which might bind some of the minerals. Now, when you want to add iron, probably the bioavailability will be affected. So there are two ways of attacking that. One is, I think Dr. Shonima earlier mentioned, you can use EDTA, where that kind of a binding will not take place. It will prevent that thing. Secondly, I think anyone can elaborate on that. Some amount of, say, germination or something that is done in millets might probably, reduce this problem. Am I right? Anybody can answer.
Yes, sir. Because the vitamin C,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So yes, you're absolutely right, because vitamin C content through germination, increases in the product, and which helps in addressing the solution to it.
Yeah,
Dr. Shonima, you can answer this better.
Yeah, so it will also release the enzymes that can help in taking care of these anti-nutritional factors. So yes, like you said, you rightly put it, that if such processing is added, and then we go for the fortification, and also the bioavailability can definitely be taken care of, and the forms of the fortificant that is used, like you mentioned, the iron sodium EDTA, which is its bioavailability is much better as compared to the other types of fortificant, iron fortificants, ferrous sulfate or others. I think EDTA is the best one. So yes, sir.
Ritesh, do you have any thoughts regarding that? When you are trying to suggest for fortification, the makeup of the original ingredients or formulation, and the kind of compound that you will be using as fortificant. Will there be any consideration done by anybody?
Absolutely, sir. We always try to to ensure what we want to fortify, and we always, as per FSSAI guidelines, we always go to 1 RDA, is what maximum we can add. And then we usually think he isn't not only consuming our product, so he's consuming some other product too. So our idea is to give, say it depends, like 25 to 30 to 50 to 60% of the RDA we usually plan. It can go to even 100% in some cases. As she was mentioning, Mani rightly mentioned about the vitamin B12 deficiency. So usually on plant-based thing, we try to add more, goes as close to 80%, because we understand he's a vegan product, so there's a reason he's getting a plant-based product. So he's not going to add, I don't want to take milk or other stuff. So we need to add more of the B12. We keep those in consideration in that product. Then we always consider how much we're getting from the base and what delta we need to add in the product. And during when my processing is anything, I'm increasing my vitamin out there. To give one different example, like, so when we work on, say, in a plant-based say a paneer, like a plant-based, not paneer, but a plant-based paneer equivalent, when you make it, we usually do the soaking of such millets or the such grains, whatever we do. And we also try to ensure how much, like, although I'm doing for making a product, but I'm also getting some vitamins which is coming in a product now. So can I leverage that also in my system? So I need to add less amount of those, or more bioavailability will be from the germination, and then only the delta difference I'm going to fortify in the product. So yes, very much like, so these are all the fun of the making product. We need to consider everything together, and as a go, what process we are making for an end product, what can be repercussions on say nutrients, or the fortification can happen, right? So all put together become a total, like, the solution to the product.
Good. So you have a lot of challenges that are very interesting to solve. So let me come back to you
We love
with
challenges, sir.
your own question.
Yeah.
Would it be a good idea to have such FSSAI endorsed fortification for other foods other than staples? Like, I think this was asked earlier to somebody, but anyway, you can answer. Other staples than wheat flour, rice, salt, milk, and oil. Do you think other foods can also be fortified? Should we ask FSSAI to allow this to be extended? Ritesh.
I personally feel that, yeah, it's I personally, this is my personal observation, or my personal way I look at it. Should be said, why not? Definitely yes, because we're talking about the fortification, we're talking about taking India to the next level, we're talking about fortification everywhere, eat right, we're talking about all those things. Considering all those things is a right way we can fortify more products, but only thing, like, I sometimes feel it should be more voluntary than actually like enforcing them by doing that. And when I look at the voluntary part, and when I define like other things, people are doing it. So it's more of a question whether we should do as a force or we should do it a voluntary. What come to picture? And once we start thinking fortifying other products, so because what happened, we staples, we're talking about the fortification, and for other products we already fortifying the product, right? So only thing we decide what we want to add. For example, when we say a kids product, we focus more on, say, calcium or vitamin D, or more for his other health. When you look for some other product for the adults, or say for example a plant-based product, we think, okay, B12 and D, what he must be like lacking in his diet. So we focus on those products more. Or when we look for the more for the like women centric focus, then we talk about all, okay, iron, the folic acid and B12, then we put that series. So immediately when someone talk about the product, we just think, okay, what could be the best metrics which can go with the product claims, or can go with the product. So people do fortify, and of course FSI should focus on more. But I really believe on one more point which they rightly mentioned, FSI, and which not going beyond 1 RDA, because that at certain level consuming every day could be toxicity for that. So assuming we're not giving more than 100% RDA in any of the product, should be like valid, should be maintained there. I can give examples. Like, we have seen certain products, I don't want to quote unquote, we have seen some products where people were adding biotin to like 100 times in the RDA levels. So all the RDAs goes for, say, 10 micrograms something, and people were adding actually like something like a 10 milligram in the product. Although is a vitamin B, like this, or excess will go just drain, but for the claim's sake they were saying, okay, we're adding 10,000 milligrams something in the product, which is like unleading to the customers and also wrong from the regulation perspective. So it's very important we adhere to the regulations, we respect the regulations, and we go for the 1 RDA, and based on that we can decide how much we want to give up the 1 RDA. So doing all together, we can have a solution on it.
Point rightly taken, Ritesh, because there might be some kind of a race that, my product has got more than somebody else's. So they may keep on adding more and more, and there will be a problem of toxicity. Yes, Mani, you raised a hand.
Yes, sir. Just to add to Mr. Ritesh, a few of the processed products also have been, allowed by the fssci, that is cereal products. One is bakery wares and also fruit juices. So now the industry has this liberty to fortify these products. But yes, I really endorse this thing that yes, it should be within the limits so that one may not go out of track on getting the vitamins and nutrients and such kind of things. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Shonima, milk fortification was supposed to be primarily for infants and children to get enough vitamin A and D for their RDA. How much milk would they need to drink to get the RDA? Dr. Shonima.
Yes, sir. Sir, question is about how much milk. I would say, according to data, our consumption in India is around roughly, the average consumption is from 170 to 300 grams or so on an average. And the whole concept of fortification is that you meet only around 1/3 of the RDA, 25 to 30% of the RDA. So if you calculate also not, I don't think so, more than 500 ml of milk and milk products anybody should have in a day. And anyway, any kind of food, consumption of any kind of food is self-limiting. So even in the case of milk, you cannot be consuming a large quantities of milk that, and that the upper safety level of the micronutrient would be exceeded. So, but I believe around not more than 500 ml should be a good enough figure.
Now, for infants, yeah, I'll come back to you, Mani. For infants, milk is probably most of the food that they consume, very little of the other things. So in that case, do you think they would get enough of the vitamins A and D from milk? If they, how much milk do they consume, infants? Do they get enough of these vitamins? Because they don't eat anything else.
So when if it is, if you're talking about before 6 months, I think, sir, the amount of milk that they consume should be good enough for their requirements, sir.
Okay, very good. Yeah, Mani, you wanted to add something, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, I wish to add that per capita, where there are two factors into it: per capita availability across India and per capita consumption. India being the dairy producer and topmost amongst them, the per capita availability, yes, it is crossing 300 now. But however, the per capita consumption is still very low. It's nearly 120 ml or so. If you see the NDDB site, National Dairy Development Board. Correct. So considering that fact, I think it should be relooked on consumption pattern. And yes, it can be taken ahead, taking the amounts at a higher level. Additionally, if I talk about infants, just to answer and elaborate a bit on this, with the little knowledge of mine, infants till the time breastfeeding, it's the basic nutrients from where they are getting all the nutrients. However, once the weaning has been started, that consideration from milk fortification currently it doesn't address. It can only address, as Mr. Ritesh said, that once the infant formula which is being fortified, that can take or take a hold of it or address these situations. However, milk fortification in plain milk will not address this problem.
True. So during the breastfeeding time, the breast milk should suffice for everything. And after the 6-month period, when you're actually the weaning starts, the complementary food introduction starts, that there the milk obviously will not suffice, and you need the other ingredients also, the other components also.
Yeah. Thank you, Ritesh.
Yeah, as I will at this stage, when two experts said, I will say let's talk about fortifying the mother. Then let's give mother all the nutrient what she need. so she can give the required vitamins and minerals to his baby, like so. So her dad
Absolutely.
is very
And
important.
that thought started when B complex was, introduced in the pregnant and lactating mothers. So I think one particular vitamin, no, which one? Which one?
Folic acid.
Folate.
Folic acid.
Folate has
Folate.
been
Yes.
one of the most important factors in that thing. Yes, you are right that we have to think of mothers as well as pregnant uh, women. Okay, let me take the next question to Mani. India is a diverse country and we consume different varieties of rice. Is there any specific variety to be fortified, or any variety of rice can be fortified without any difficulty? Mani.
Sir, currently, it's like more prevalence if we see if we are addressing the mass population, it should be white rice because it has been consumed across all the regions. Because if you see the pattern of India being a very diverse in their food habits, in South we have a prevalence of having red rice as well. Now, introduction of brown rice is also being there. However, if you see the patterns, white rice across India is very much relished, whether it is in south or you come across to north, everybody eats white rice. So, to my view, I think other panelists can add to this because of my little knowledge on this. I propose that it is white rice which can be done across. However, currently it is white rice. I don't know how red rice will be there, since the extrusion process and fortification happens through extrusion kernels. So by considering the red rice, it will have white kernels into it, and how consumers might perceive into it. So it should be more of white rice because of the consumption, so that the mass population can get the benefit out of it.
Yeah, as Mani requested, other panelists can also contribute. Yeah, Dr. Shonima.
Yes, sir. So I agree with Miss Mani. As she mentioned, white rice is because that is something where you don't have to bring about a behavior change. People are already, majority of the people are used to consuming white rice. So that's one of the best options that's available. And even the fortificants that are used, I believe like fortificants like ferric pyrophosphate, which kind of don't lend a color to it I mean, in comparison to other iron fortificants. The purpose itself is to make sure that it looks and appears exactly the way the normal rice looks. So asking people to change their habit and start having other forms of rice is more difficult. And so fortifying white rice, which is commonly accepted by the masses, is a better idea.
Ritesh, do you have any comments?
Not really, sir. But I like their point because we should go for the more for the masses, because we're talking about for the mass thing. The people who are allied, they can actually go for some other products. So mass make more sense. And I would also look from the properties of the rice that is cooked. So with the right rice will take more time to cook. So the cooking time will be different. When extruded rice is there, so it go with the design for the white rice. When go for the matta rice or the red rice, we call as the boiled rice, the other variety or the brown rice will take a more time for cooking. So this have a different property. Then have entire studies done on the white rice, and suddenly you're putting that in a red rice would be a different ball game. So yeah, go for the masses, but white rice would be a more appropriate in this way.
Thank you. I think you all agree on this particular point. So now that is the end of the round of questions specifically asked to individuals. Now there are common questions. Anybody can answer, or all of them can answer. If all or most of these foods permitted by fssci are fortified, is it possible to remove vitamin and mineral deficiency among Indians? Can we reduce malnutrition and hidden hunger prevailing in our country? Now, you need not, give a very well-read or well thought of answer. It may be your opinion, but let us uh, hear something from you as experts, please. Anybody can, yeah,
I can
Ritesh.
start, sir. Yeah, I always feel, sir, the journey of 1,000 start with a single step. You always hear about that. And whenever we design, we start on the first, what is my first step would be like, no, this is like the entire journey look like what I do first. So I think this is the right way. I mean, going much beyond, I would say this can be done in like a 1 year, 2 year, or 5 years. We can, I don't know whether we can have the plan like that or we can really make the plan that. It's a regular journey. People are keep adding, people are like understanding the awareness increasing, this is going to happen this way. But we can surely start somewhere, and I really appreciate the FSI just started this. And when we're talking about initially with Sukda, she also talking about fortification starting way back in 1920s, and you talk about like fortification in 1970s, the iron happened, the salt one happened in India. So all those things were the part of the journey. Now we don't see any iodine deficiency now, like which Sukda also mentioned. It was done sometime back, like way back, maybe like what 80, 90 years back it was done, but we can see the results in coming years. So I think we just start somewhere, and once we do good thing keep happening after that. So if we start the fortification, just starting the stipples today, I'm sure tomorrow or sometime, like when say tomorrow, like maybe like 5 years, 6 years, 10 years down the line, there could be on some addressal on the issues on the micronutrients that can happen. So yeah, we should start something. So that I would only think to I would only stop there. Well, I want to hear more from the other experts.
Yeah, yeah. Shonima, Mani, anybody?
Yeah, sir, I believe I agree with Mr. Ritesh. It may, like you said, the question said whether it will solve the problem. I really don't know at this point in time. It's very difficult to say whether it will solve the issue. But like Mr. Ritesh mentioned, if we have to take baby steps, you actually start and let's see where it goes. And we do need regular monitoring to find out what the the malnutrition levels are like in India. And definitely, with regular monitoring, we will find out whether it is actually bringing about some difference or not. So maybe even if we are not able to completely remove it, definitely we can bring about some kind of improvement. And we have been talking about that gap between what is that we are not meeting the requirement and our intakes, that kind of gap that we're talking about, that reduction in that gap can definitely be brought about with fortification. So I think it is worth a try.
Thank you. Mani?
Yeah, I will just add to what has been previously discussed on this. Yes, the products can be fortified, yes, of course. However, one consideration, if all the products have been fortified, the limits, the values, the kind of tolerances, the overages should be managed in such a way. I understand this point very well, that the upper tolerable limits are very, very, very high to create the toxicity. However, if you consider the Indian thali, if I say traditional Indian thali, which will be very different from South to what is here in North India. So the diversity is a challenge with India. It's a boon, as well as to map is a challenge with India, with respect to India. So the kind of tolerances and the limit it should have should be of utmost importance. Rest, yes, fortification is a boon, and it's a great technology to go ahead to fill in any kind of gap and address the micronutrient deficiency. Yes.
Now, let me ask you, Ryder, on this. All right, you make fortification of certain products, certain staples. People should eat that. Now, if people continue to eat something which is not fortified, because right now it is not compulsory, it is not mandatory. Unlike iodization of soil, you can't buy ordinary soil. You can only buy iodized soil. So there is a mandatory fortification there. But other cases, there is an option. Consumers can buy fortified or not fortified, or they may not, government may promote milk, and it is good for all the reasons, but they may not drink enough of milk. In that case, even if, there are best intentions, we may not be able to, get rid of the problems, because consumer behavior is also involved in that. So how can we address that issue? We can't just keep on telling that, eat only healthy food. So how do we address this?
This has been a challenge, sir, and to some extent, Mother Dairy has been able to cater this. I would, sir, say awareness is one such kind of tool. If you keep on telling them in print ads, they won't say that. There is a set of people who will read it. However, we at Mother Dairy try to do kind of, you know, believe, seeing is believing. Once you see anything, you believe it. So we also had one campaign over here at Mother Dairy, seeing is believing campaign. What is there? You come at Mother Dairy, you just need to say that we need to visit our booth, how it has happened, how milk it is fortified. So you get to know what is the technology. One is the technology part. So the other set of awareness happens is on nukkers, wherein the rural population or in the outskirts the rural population is there. The another tool for awareness happens to be you creating awareness, hands-on kind of awareness, maybe from a nukkar natak or such kind of things. Maybe setting up the as in Mother Dairy we set up few stalls for your micronutrient analysis. Your sample there, and you just share your mobile number, your lab reports would be there. So kind of CSR initiatives which industries can adopt. And it is not just the industries do have a certain limitation, sir. It has to go hand in hand with the kind of awareness which is a PPP model, public private partnership model, wherein both industry as in government both tie up hands creating the awareness. On that front, not just the milk, sir, we have also from Dhara, I would rather say you all have come across noticing fssci Eat Right campaign, for that matter aaj se thoda kam, right? Before the Eat Right campaign happened, we introduced, you all can see on the YouTubes as well, for Dhara zara sa badlav banaye zindagi behtar. So we are fortifying oil, yet we are recommending them that please have it proportionately, moderate consumption of having any cooking oil, any fortified cooking oil with balanced lifestyle and food is important. So kind of such kind of awareness will can only happen, and this should go on a repetitive periodic manner. This cannot be so that in 2017 we got the operationalization, we started the food fortification, we did the campaigns, and now it is over. However, the company should still strive, and the government should also give some incentivization to the industries which have been incentivization, not in the case that they should reimburse any kind of monetary incentivization. However, that some kind of recognition on a platform where it can be taken up to the next level, so that people should know that fortification is best, or fortification is better. To have food products which are fortified are good. For that matter, there are ads which have been laid down by fssci. They should come on a recurring periodic basis on channels like um, the the private channels as well as the government channels, not just the private channels. That is my only submission, sir. Awareness is the only key for that.
Very nicely put, Mani. Dr. Shonima, would you like to add something to this?
Hello,
Yeah.
sir, I'm really sorry to interrupt. Actually, we are running out of time. But I
Okay.
can see so much of enthusiasm among our speakers. It's really nice
Yeah.
to learn so much of information on fortification and enrichment of food with micronutrients. But so I think since we are running short of time, I would like a minute to really thank everybody. So
Yeah,
sorry
please.
to interrupt, or
No,
I really apologize.
no problem. No problem. We have been having a lot of nice chat with each other, and probably this is only a beginning. We may have more. So thank
Yes,
you
sir.
very much. It was a
Yes,
very
sir.
nice and enlightened talk from all of you. So thank you very much. Yeah,
Thank you,
please,
sir. So
Shamina.
this has been, thank you, sir. Thank you. This has been actually a very engaging session, sir. So if you see each speaker bring out their insights and discussion, it really seems to be very interesting, and we can actually move on for more number of webinars and sessions. But for now, I think so we can wrap the session. I thank our moderator, Dr. Jagdish Pai, speaker, Ms. Sukhada, and a panelist, Mr. Ritesh, Ms. Shonima, and Ms. Mani, for making this platform the most knowledgeable and insightful one. I'm sure there have been a lot of points actually as takeaways for our audience who were present today, because there was so much of enthusiasm and a lot of discussions. I'm really happy for this, and I actually request our esteemed participants to take a minute of their time and answer the exit survey questions, which they will receive through their email post the session. I again, once again, thank all our speakers, our panelists, and our moderator. And also, I thank the first team and the team Hexagon for all the support provided to make this event really successful. So thank you all. Have a great evening, and sorry for interrupting. But actually, I would like to also mention that we have seen an overwhelming response from our participants. We have a good number of questions on the chat box for all the speakers. But since we have no time, these questions will be shared with each speakers, and they can share the views, which in turn will be shared to our participants through email in the following days. So thank you all. Thank you so much for sparing your time, giving us a time, and of course, sharing this knowledge. Thank you all. Have a great evening. I also like to thank our participants. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah,
thank you for
it was
this
enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.